Good evening from the vapid hellhole that is Washington, D.C. I'm Larry O'Connor. Hey, here's the thing. The Judiciary Committee in the House, run by Republicans now, thankfully, they're going to do a special committee hearing this Monday coming up. They're doing it in Manhattan. They're going to take testimony from various people in that city about their DA, Alvin Bragg, about what his priorities are with regard to Donald Trump, and he ignores actual murders in his streets. And also, from people in that prosecutor's office to talk about the internal discussions about what led them to indict Donald Trump. Seems like a really important hearing, and good on Jim Jordan and the members of that committee to actually do it right there in Manhattan, just a couple of blocks away from the DA's office. How did the DA respond? He's suing Jim Jordan. That's a neat trick. Joining us now to discuss it is a member of that great committee, Congressman Andy Biggs of the wonderful state of Arizona. That's pretty much what happened here. I love this trick. If I ever get subpoenaed by Congress, I'll just sue the chairman.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a kind of a hoot out of that. When the story broke yesterday, I thought, what? I got to dig into this, and of course, it got the TRO was summarily dismissed, the temporary restraining order.
Yeah.
Larry, there's no basis for his lawsuit. He knows it, but then there was no basis for his 34-count indictment, which is one of the silliest legal documents I think I've read in my tenure as a lawyer.
So I guess there's some consistency there from DA Alvin Bragg. He's really good at filing meaningless, useless, completely unwarranted filings with the federal courts. But I got to ask you, there's obviously a root of it. He does not want this hearing to go on because you subpoenaed a former prosecutor in that office to find out actually what was the basis here. Tell me about that, because this is going to be really important testimony.
Yeah, so we actually have a conflict. So Mark Pomerantz is going to be giving a closed door deposition, kind of at the same time that we're doing the other part of this hearing. So at the deposition, Larry, what's going to happen is this guy he basically singled out Donald Trump and said, we got to get Donald Trump. We're going to have to convict Donald Trump. And there was never necessarily any predicate for it. It was just going after him. Then he felt Bragg was dragging his feet too much, so he leaves the office, writes a book about it, right? So that's Pomerantz. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, you got Bragg, who is basically busting down felonies to misdemeanors in about half of the cases, and then he loses the prosecution on half of those cases. He's releasing people out because he doesn't want anybody to do any jail time. So it doesn't matter these violent crimes, they're going out and going free. He doesn't want that known, and so his lawsuit, I think, was a distraction from the crime hearing because he doesn't want Pomerantz to reveal how they reached really one of the most specious legal decisions you can imagine, which is to prosecute former President Trump.
And meanwhile, you're going to have testimony from residents of Manhattan talking about the horrific crime situation that they're living under, the violence, the knifings, the people getting pushed off subway platforms, all of the things that's pretty much permitted to happen in Manhattan while Bragg goes after Trump.
Yeah, no, that's right. And it's beautiful because Bragg's response to that in the press has been, we're the safest big city in America, which ain't saying much if that's true, which I don't think it is. But beyond that, what he's also saying is he's taken data from the last month and a half or so and saying, see, the data's better in the last month and a half. But he's cherry picked his data because when you look at the overall picture during his tenure, everything has gotten worse. And it's a policy thing, and he just doesn't want to face the music for his bad policies.
Well, and a spreadsheet and a bar graph are cold comfort to the residents of Manhattan who actually know the reality on the ground there and what they're dealing with. Got to ask you, though, I know that you're a big fan of our system of government and the separation of powers. If there was a district attorney back in Arizona who was bringing up some charges against criminals there or illegal immigrants or issues that could possibly touch into the federal sphere, if a Democrat-led congressional committee started, meddling or questioning or challenging what that DA was doing. Would you be in favor of it? A lot of people are raising a red flag about Congress's role here, even though I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I would be concerned. But here's the deal: the U.S. Supreme Court has basically ruled already that once you start receiving federal funds, then Congress has oversight authority. Which is why when I was in the state legislature, I used to say, let's stop taking federal funds because we don't want the federal government to have the ability to incur and meddle in our affairs. But I would just say this too. I do think the federal government has an obligation, if there is injustice going on, and it's systemic, I think that both the preamble kind of sets this forth, as well as the 14th Amendment, there is a pretext to go in besides what the Supreme Court has said.
Is it fair also, Congressman Biggs, to argue that because we're in the midst of a presidential campaign, I know that the RNC just announced the first primary debate coming up in a couple of months in Milwaukee. We've got a lot of candidates declared. Donald Trump right now is leading all those candidates. The DA taking this unprecedented action is really tampering, meddling in the 2024 presidential election. Last time I checked, meddling in a presidential election is frowned upon.
Well, it certainly is if Republicans meddling. You really, that is a concern, Larry. But if there was a real predicate for a crime, I mean, I'm not sure that I would stand up and say, well, we can't do this. But this isn't the way they did this. They did this and they said, we've got to get Donald Trump. And not only do we have to get Donald Trump, we're going to find something. And other agencies had looked at this, federal agencies, and they'd said, there's nothing here. And yet Alvin Bragg goes in and says, well, sure there is. So I'm conflicted in the sense that I think we want to prevent the meddling, election meddling. But at the same time, if somebody has committed a crime, let's say that somebody was alleged to have committed a murder. Well, and you can't just say, well, I'm running for president, and so you can't come after me.
That's a good point.
But the point is, that isn't how they did this here. Right. This was designed, was designed to meddle with the election.
By the way, real fast, one quick question about, speaking of crimes that don't get investigated. President is in Ireland today, getting a lot of great media coverage. And did you see who was traveling with him? Right there over his shoulder, walking off Air Force One, his son, Hunter Biden. Does that raise any red flags to you, Congressman?
Well, two things came to mind with that is that Joe Biden yesterday said, somebody asked him, was some of your family? He says, oh yeah, some of my kids have never been to Ireland before. I'm thinking, so you got to bring Hunter Biden along? I mean, come on. That's kind of crazy. The second thing is, I think we need to be looking at, what's he doing? What kind of business transactions is he conducting over there in Ireland? Right. And is there going to be a cut for the big guy?
No, come on, Congressman. You know that Hunter Biden only does business with authoritarian states that are the enemies of the American people. We like Ireland.
Yeah.
Thanks, Congressman. Always good to talk with you. There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Keep it right here on Salem News Channel.